What you are seeing on the screen right now is footage of the most mysterious weather event in all of Grow Garden. Yeah, if you've been playing the game for a little while now, you might recognize it as the Crystal Beams event. And unlike every other weather event in the game, nobody has a freaking clue as to what this thing does. Not a single soul on this planet can confidently figure out what the significance of this extremely rare weather event is, until today. You see, dear viewers, I aim to solve Grow Garden's biggest mystery once and for all, in this very video. That being, what the heck is up with the Crystal Beams weather event? What could players have to possibly gain by completing this event? And is it even worth doing so? Well, strap in, as we are about to figure out. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so what exactly is the Crystal Beams weather event? After all, we can't really analyze it without knowing exactly what's going on here. Well, rarely, and I'm talking extremely rarely, like once in a blue moon rarely, whilst you are playing Grow Garden, there is a very small chance for this weather to activate naturally. So, contrary to the popular belief, this isn't an admin spawn thing. When this occurs, several large crystal structures will spawn all throughout the map, and you, as well as any other people in your server, have to go to each crystal and click on it 5 times. Each time this action is performed, the crystal will emit a large beam of light into the sky, and once all the crystals activate, all of their beams can join together in one massive light show, hence why it's called the Crystal Beam event. Now, this just seems like your typical run-of-the-mill weather event that requires a few extra steps in order to be fully activated, kinda like the Carrot Rocket event that admins can sometimes spawn. The issue is, though, we have no clue as to what activating all the crystals actually does. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the way a weather event typically works is once it activates, or after a player manually activates it, such as what can be seen with the Crystal Beams event, some of the crops in your garden will receive a special mutation. This is fairly common knowledge, and with so many different weathers in Grow Garden, there are a lot of other mutations players can get from them. The thing is, though, most of the time players complete the Crystal Beams event, there isn't really any noticeable difference in their own garden. This is due to a very good reason, though, and that's because this weather in this one only doesn't have a unique mutation that it provides, but instead, at least based on its description as well as eyewitness testimonies, it can give multiple. Yeah, you heard that right. This one weather event can give multiple different mutations to your crops, something unheard of in this game. Unfortunately, though, this provides more questions than answers. Namely, the biggest question is, what mutations do I get from this thing? This question will be the primary focus of this video, and unfortunately, I don't think we will ever get a clear answer. This event is so unbelievably rare that documentation on it is practically non-existent, and that means only eyewitness reports are what we have to go off of. For starters, one big misconception I want to get out of the way is that it's extremely unlikely the Crystal Beams weather gives crops a completely new mutation. I've heard players talk about some random crystallized mutation or something similar, but I just haven't seen any concrete proof of it existing at all. Much like the weather's description implies, this thing likely only gives crops a variety of pre-existing mutations and not any new ones, so sorry if you were expecting a new mutation out of this event. Now, how do we figure out which mutations it does give on your plants specifically to determine if completing the event is actually a worthwhile endeavor? Well, let's take a look at some eyewitness reports. Searching through YouTube comments, I came across a couple people stating their findings after encountering this event. One user stated how the event gave them some relatively basic and common mutations, such as Moonlit and Windstruck. However, I've seen several other users point out that the weather can give much more rare and sought-after mutations, such as Celestial and Aurora. The thing is, though, the one claim I keep seeing time and time again is probably the most jaw-dropping, and that is how this event can grant players admin-only mutations. Yes, you heard that right. Although the Crystal Beams event is a very rare sight to behold, it has the capabilities to grant players mutations only admins can give them, completely naturally, as the weather can spawn them on its own. Now, as I'm sure you are all aware, in the hour before the game updates, the Grow Garden developers, specifically Jandal, perform something known as admin abuse, where they spawn admin-only events that grant very exclusive mutations, hence the name admin abuse, as they are abusing their admin powers. Among these are the infamous Disco and Heavenly mutation events, ones that can only be obtained through this admin abuse. Wouldn't you know it, but several people have reported getting these mutations onto their very own crops in their garden after the Crystal Beams event occurs, meaning it is highly likely these claims are based in reality due to the sheer fact of how many there are. In fact, a close friend of mine, who is a pretty good Grow Garden player, actually told me they got the Heavenly mutation from this event, which is one of these admin-only mutations. And given how they don't really have any reason to lie, as well as how they physically could not have gotten the mutation in any other way, as the developers aren't abusing it right now, after all, it isn't a weekend where an update is about to happen, this claim, as well as others stating admin-only mutations can be obtained through this weather, are likely very true. That isn't all though, as I've also seen many players claim one of the rarest and most overpowered mutations can be obtained from this event, and that is Dawnbound. If you recall, this mutation provides crops a 150 times increase in their value, and it is notoriously difficult to obtain, as the only way to reliably get it is by sitting in a Grow Garden server for 5 hours straight with an ascended mutated pet. Now, though, players have a shot at getting it completely for free and relatively easily by just being lucky during one of these Crystal Beams event, which is an absolute game changer, especially if the mutation is applied to an extremely high-value crop like a Bone Blossom. In fact, it appears that almost every single mutation in the game, from extremely powerful like Disco to very weak like Moonlit, can be obtained from this event, making it truly the most versatile in the entire game. And that means if you're lucky enough to encounter it, you should definitely activate all the crystals for the chance of getting some insanely good multipliers on your plant's values. Now, keep in mind all of this is just based on several eyewitness reports, so although the possibility of the Crystal Beams weather event providing every single mutation in-game is most likely true, just take that claim with a grain of salt, as it's possible it's not as powerful as I'm making it out to be. Still, imagine the possibilities if all of this is real. Think of easily getting Dawnbound and Discoed and even Void Touch completely for free through this event, and all you have to do is activate a few crystals. Who wouldn't want that? I guess that solves the mystery of this weather event in Grow Garden. Its true purpose is that it does literally everything. It applies every single mutation. Anyways, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what mutations you got from this weather event, as well as how many times you've seen this event, as according to my knowledge, it is extremely rare, and I've only encountered it a very few amount of times. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.